personally, I believe that TA should always be part of the HR team because it's so important to have a clear visibility on the HR strategy roadmap to design a very effective TA strategy. But I noticed that more and more companies are starting to integrate TA with the business functions. Eventually, TA will be less connected to the HR teams, and this can create some miscommunication and or misunderstanding in the long run. How can TA and HR develop a very solid relationship?
Welcome to the All-in Recruitment podcast by Manatal, where we explore best practices, learnings, and trends with leaders in the recruitment space. If you like our content, please subscribe to our channels on YouTube and Spotify to stay tuned for our weekly episodes. My name is Lydia, and joining us today is Frederic Bonifassy, who is the head of talent acquisition for APAC at RTB House. You're based in Singapore. Welcome to the show, Frederic.
Thank you so much, Lida, for giving me the opportunity to discuss with you today.
An absolute pleasure. So tell us about your background in talent acquisition, Frederic, and your current role at RTB House.
Sure. So, I came to Singapore in 2011, 12 years ago. I just got a sales and marketing background. And then, while looking for my first job, there was this boutique recruitment agency who approached me and they offered me a role as a recruiter. I never heard about the role of doing recruiter before, so I just learned on the spot. So like many professionals before me, I didn't choose recruitment. Actually, it was recruitment that chose me. After working a few years in agencies, I got this opportunity to go in-house and have the chance to build a TA function in an ad tech startup company. And from there, I realized that, recruitment was just a small part of the TA function. And that's how I fell in love with talent acquisition. Today at RTB House, I have a regional role to analyze our hiring performance metrics, to use data to make hiring decisions, to partner with 6 country directors, and to put together the best recruitment strategy for each of them, while managing a team of 5 TA professionals and helping them to grow.
That's interesting. So that's quite a scope from having started in the agency segment where it was so new to you to having to develop a whole department by yourself. What are some areas that you prioritized since taking on this role?
Sure. So the first thing to do, I think, is to make an audit to assess the situation. So before working at RTB House, I got previous experiences where during the first month of the employment, I need to analyze what's working, what's not working, understand with the leadership and the business leaders what are the priorities, and to also check and hear from them what are the growth area and the opportunities to improve our own recruitment process. So, just a strong partnering with all these business leaders to prioritize my TA strategy. And then after that, develop a roadmap, present it to the leadership, get the approval, and implement it.
In this particular segment, ad tech, martech, right? Are there any skills gap in particular that you've noticed in the martech or ad tech segment? And what might be the top 3 criteria that you look out for in a candidate?
Yeah, absolutely. So it can be really hard today to find professionals with marketing advertising experience, but also combining a tech background or finding someone with a good tech experience with a marketing or advertising background. Really having a mix of the two of them is really the key for success, but not only, because I realize as well that now today is not enough. You really need to have these people to be business oriented. They really need to understand the company mission, the company objectives, and the revenue goals that the company wants to hit. Only from there, this person will be able to add value and to make a quick impact. So I really noticed that the greatest skills gaps today are within the paid social media advertising, everything related to the paid search advertising, marketplace selling, SEO, SEM. Today at RTB House, we use AI, machine learning, deep learning. So it's really imperative that all these talents have a good understanding of these technologies on top of martech, ad tech background. And to answer your second question, my top 3 criteria It's not necessarily hard skills. It's good to know how to do a job, but the most important for me, is to hire based on the attitude. So someone who is curious, someone who is eager to learn, someone who has a lot of energy, someone who is not afraid of getting out of their comfort zone are really the top criteria for me to hire someone.
So you mentioned earlier that you cover 6 countries in this regional role, right? So what might be some unique challenges to the diversity in these countries?
That's really challenging because I'm taking care of the Southeast Asia region, India, Korea, Japan, China, and Australia/New Zealand. So I'm sure you know that already that among all these countries, they have a very, very strong and unique culture. So my TA strategy can be regional, but has to be localized as well. And this level of breakdown and localization, it's super critical for a successful recruitment. So what's working in India is not going to work in Japan. What's working in Singapore is not going to work in Australia. So it's very important to have these specificities on my talent acquisition strategy. What is helping me a lot today is that in Korea and Japan, for example, I have 2 fantastic local recruiters who are very close to the market, who speak the local language, and they can help me on a weekly basis on all the news, the latest updates about the government, on the employment law, etc. So I strongly rely on them to shape the best hiring strategy for their country directors and for these 6 countries that I'm representing.
How do you determine someone who is a great culture add or a great fit for the company?
So fitting the job and fitting the company are great, but these are just a few percentage that I add to qualify this talent to be a good hire for us. But like I said previously, what I really pay attention is really the soft skills. I want to hear and I want to see how the person think, what is the thought process, how they digest information, how they summarize discussions. So we do have technical assessments for technical positions. We also have business cases for sales and account managers. We also have data spreadsheets assignment as well for business analysts and data analysts as well. So we really want to have this combo between hard skills and soft skills. What defines for me the best candidate at the end of the process is not the one who is going to do the job and only the job like immediately. Is also the candidate who has a margin of growth, margin of progression, and someone who is curious enough to do the extra mile and to become the next future leader in the company.
That's great. There's also that measure of potential that plays into that.
Definitely.
Yeah. And how would you describe a successful collaboration between HR and talent acquisition, now that you're already within a TA function that you're growing in the region?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. Personally, I believe that TA should always be part of the HR team because it's so important to have a clear visibility on the HR strategy roadmap to design a very effective TA strategy. But I noticed that more and more companies are starting to integrate TA with their business functions. Eventually, TA will be less connected to the HR teams, and this can create some miscommunication and or misunderstanding in the long run. How can TA and HR develop a very solid relationship? I think it's by having frequent meetings, at least weekly, asking for help or advice on any roadblocks that we encounter along the way. We should work on similar strategic projects like career mapping or career matrix, like succession planning, like onboarding, learning and development, any type of trainings, HR workshops. All of that are super important, I think, for a great integration between TA and HR. And also, having the chance to set up the best hiring practices together by making sure we have a high level of trust between each other.
So in terms of recruitment processes, how do you go about streamlining your recruitment processes, and improving talent sourcing capabilities as you go along?
When I joined a company as a TA professional, I realized that a lot of workflows and processes are only related to recruitment and not on the TA general function. So it's always among the biggest challenges for me to tackle when I start a new role. I think it's important to have a yearly or semi-annual audit year after year, to really assess what's working and what's not working, to analyze the situation and start to identify the improvement areas with the hiring team, to really understand from them as well what was their previous experiences with the recruiter, whether satisfied, not satisfied, is there anything we could work together, if they want us to have a higher level of engagement with the hiring team as well, because if a team is hiring, they should not just rely on us, because we are the recruiter / the talent acquisition team. But I really believe that recruitment is a team effort. If we are hiring someone for that team, it's imperative that they are involved in the process. So once it's done, we need to design a roadmap that will define all the priorities, the timelines, the outcomes, and the owners of each sub-project. And the second part of your question is how to improve talent sourcing capabilities. I think here, I've always been someone who likes to promote a mentorship, coaching to the youngest recruitment professionals. I also like to provide one-on-one training sessions with learning development opportunities. I always ask my teams, if there's anything they would like to learn, any certification they would like to go for, any class, online class. So we bought an account on LinkedIn Learning for all our TAs actually globally. So we have the chance to have courses and classes and lessons talking about TA, talking about any type of topics, and that's really great to help them to enhance their capabilities in terms of sourcing team, how to find the best candidate, how to qualify them, how to interview them, etc.
And moving into talent sourcing, assessing, as you mentioned earlier, like looking back into what's working and what's not, there's also a need to become more data-driven, more analytical, even more mathematical, so to speak, when it comes to recruitment, right? So how do you go about inculcating that in your team?
So we have a fantastic data team who put together a matrix called an assessment matrix with scorecards. So basically, we have, based on the type of interview we want to go with the candidates, we're going to have certain questions assessing certain types of behavior or technical skills. And based on some of these questions and answers, we attribute a score from 1 to 5. And at the end of all these questions, with the level of answer provided from the candidate, we have actually a certain total of points that's going to qualify the candidate for a pass or a no-go. And thanks to this data, basically, we are able to scale up our decision making using data, and it's working really well.
In terms of attracting and retaining talent at RTB, or maybe anywhere else that you work, what are some challenges that you faced in attracting and retaining talent, and how have you overcome them? What's a workaround?
Sure. So in terms of attracting talents, I'm sure that we all face the hiring manager who are asking us to find a unicorn, or the other scenario is, please find me someone who can start yesterday or tomorrow. In some of my previous experiences, the problem didn't come from the unreasonable expectations from the hiring team or the high level of criteria. It really, because they're all aware of the difficulty to find these talents. It's something that's for sure. They're never gonna say to you, but I think it's easy, you should find someone for me. Please do your best, but hire the best and hire fast. I don't think today a hiring manager will have this kind of discussion with us. But in reality, what happened to me in my previous companies is that the problem came from the nature of our business, our geographical situation, and also the product that we were building. So I'm gonna explain that. The only talents who were able to help us and to be a plug and play, like they call, you hire and 1 week or 2 weeks, they immediately can start working, totally free, no supervision, etc. So they were all based in US and in Europe. In APAC, we are in an industry from my previous company that was kind of not mature at the same level. So it was really, really difficult to connect with these talents on the other part of the world, get their interest, go through the interviews, get the offer approved, and relocate them here in Southeast Asia, because we cannot work remotely on this on some of these particular positions. They must relocate in Singapore. So, and based on the level of seniority, they all have family, meaning that we need to provide a relocation package. And some of the big issues we encountered was, the kids' schools. They just started the school year term, or they have mortgages to pay the house, or they just bought a car and they need to sell all of that or find solutions with the family. So what I did is I put in place 2 big projects to overcome these issues. The first one was to rely on our internal recruitment team. So since it was a big group worldwide and we have different business entities, I actually discussed with some HR team based in the headquarters in France. And we actually put together a strategy based on the seniority and based on the job family. We were trying to map internally who were about to finish their mission and who would be interested in starting a new mission, relocating internally within the group to Singapore. So we did a full talent mapping, we did a pitching, we did a lot of initiatives that eventually we managed to get a few talents, and that worked really well, but just not for a full-time, long-term relocation, but just for a few months as a mission. But that was already a tremendous help. And for external talents from US and from EU, what we did is I worked in partnership with the HR team to redesign and build a very solid relocation package. And in this relocation package, we included school fees, rent allowance, and also a family insurance plan. And just these 3 are big expenses in Singapore. So by providing this help, it was also a good success for us.
That's interesting. You talked about is it internal mobility, basically, right? The ability.
That's correct. Yeah.
The first project that you talked about. What was the success rate for that? It would have definitely plugged some of the business needs, the immediate business needs that came into play, right, during that time.
So I have to say that I only went into internal mobility for key critical positions, not for all of them. So I think it was probably among like 5 or 6 key positions. It's not we didn't manage to fill all of them because when you have someone, same scenario, a leader with a family, the kids are at school, they are in Canada or they are in US. It's kind of hard to relocate them to Singapore, but we are in a very attractive region where it's actually warmer. The climate is a bit better. If you wanna feel the heat and the humidity, it's a perfect place in the world. So
is that an attraction for candidates that are coming from across the world?
Actually, so we by making playing words here, it's a great icebreaker. Because people who are living in Canada, where the winter lasts for 5 to 6 months, giving them an opportunity to come under the sun, where the sun lasts 12 months, it's actually very attractive for them.
Well, the weather's a good friend to you then.
Absolutely, yes.
Great. And speaking of, I like that you talked about some quick thinking ways about how you can plug immediate business needs, how you can really bring value to a move to another country, how you can bring the most value to the company and also to a person who's moving abroad, taking that risk, right? So I like how talent acquisition has played a much larger role than just filling a need for talent at that point, and it's far greater, right? So on that note, how would you describe the role of a talent acquisition partner in today's context, and what does a TA specialist need to be, or what do they need to have?
So I feel like today it's important that the TA develop a strong partnership with their hiring team. They can't build a solid support. And they can't support the business teams if there's no rapport, if there's no relationship, if there's no trust. So it's I know it's easier said than done, but I really believe it's critical. A talent acquisition today is not a simple executant. I really feel like they must bring value. They must bring advices, recommendations. I also think that they also must say no. Because as a recruiter, if you are in an agency, when the client is asking you for something, it's very hard to say no because they actually paying you for you to fill the position as soon as possible. But as a TA function, it's very important to let the hiring team know that we know what's going on out there. We are in the market. We talk to people. We talk to candidates. We have the market insights. And they must rely on our knowledge, on our capacity actually to hire the best talent for the team. So that's why I feel like as in this particular context, a TA will bring much more value if there's this strong integration with the hiring team, having teams together, reviewing CVs together, interviewing candidates together. I think we should not hesitate to ask the hiring manager to actually, for the TA to sit on the corner of the room during the first interview. So then the TA can give some recommendation to the hiring manager. And the hiring manager shouldn't feel like there's a lack of trust because we do that. Sometimes the hiring manager will tell us, hey, I've been recruiting for 10 years in my career. You don't need to be with me. I know exactly what to do during an interview. But it's also good. It's also an excellent refresher for them to hear from a younger perspective about things we should say, things we maybe should avoid. All these DE&I factor in terms of diversity, the type of questions we can ask, the behavior, the gesture, the body language is very important. That maybe some of the hiring team can learn from the TA team.
I find that very interesting, to not just observe, not just give feedback on something, but also add a new way of doing things, because across the span of time, lots of expectations have changed from the candidate side as well, and the candidate experience. So in what ways do you go about maybe ensuring that there's a good feedback loop to the hiring managers and even to the recruiters from the hiring managers?
So I think on both ways, I like to let my TA team to go and manage their own relationship with the hiring team. I don't need to be involved unless if there's anything a bit more deeper that I need to be aware of. But I think the hiring manager should really communicate with the hiring team, should have follow-up meetings, should have even like a coffee, lunch together, really sharing some kind of particular moments in the work life to really build this rapport, this relationship for the hiring team to trust us. We don't need to force anything, but it has to come naturally. And naturally it comes with our professionalism and the quality of advices and services we are providing to them. Certainly, if you start with a cold relationship, as soon as you are professional and you bring quality advices, the hiring manager will realize that we are valuable to them and they should listen to us and they should hear us more. That's what I think. So that on the first avenue is, I think the TA professional themselves needs to reach out to them. On the second level, I think me as a manager, during my performance review, during these strategic discussions about the talent acquisition growth and the level of services given to the hiring team, I also try to ask them if they are satisfied with the level of service we provide to them and what can we do to improve that in the future. So, I'm always very proactive to always challenge the status quo. And this is what I'm asking as well my team, to not rely on what has been built so far, but always trying to find loophole and always keep improving. I'm a very big believer in the Kaizen culture.
Yes, absolutely. And, you mentioned earlier, Frederic, that points about DE&I that come into play, especially today's being such a critical topic and such a critical point of communication, in fact, both ways, right? So what are some ways to think about implementing DE&I strategies in a hiring process or in the talent acquisition strategy?
Sure. So one of my key initiatives was to diversify the panel of interviewers. When you have a low gender diversity, and especially in my space, in the technology, roughly you always have 80% of male, 20% of female. It's I think the ratio across technology that is quite low. But the industry is changing, and we can see more and more companies working toward more DE&I initiatives. So what I did is the panel of interviewers, all the job functions based on seniority has a role to play. And I was selecting, handpicking each of them who were the best representative of their team to be present during the panel, during the interview from 1 to 4 or 1 to 5. So what I did is I made sure that there was at least 50% of female and 50% of male for each stage interview. And every time we have a dual interview with 2 interviewers, it's always 1 male, 1 female. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that I put together, and it was great because we really wanted to give a chance to hire more people coming from various backgrounds, to add more perspective in interviewing and selecting the talents. So when we do the feedback, it's great to see that among the 2, one is saying, "Wow, I love this person because this," and the second one saying, "Oh no, I really don't want to have this person. I don't think this is not a good culture add. The soft skills were not there, etc." So it's good to have this mixing in the interview, mixing perspectives and to have a healthy debate on how to select a talent for the next round.
So if you've got 2 contrasting perspectives, right? So how do you resolve that? How do you make a decision around that?
We need to bring a judge, and the judge sometimes it could be me. Mm-hmm. Or the judge sometimes could be the head of the department. Mm-hmm. So based on the pro and cons, we actually try to scale what's the priority and what's more important for the role. Mm-hmm. And based on that, we ask the head of the TA team, me or the head of the department of the job function, to take a call to go to the next round. By reassuring the person being against, we say that we hear the feedback, we understand. We just want to give a last chance to see if they prove us wrong. So it's with tact, diplomacy, discussion, making sure we are not hurting the ego of the person who said no, and continue the smooth process this way.
That's great. It all comes back to clarity and knowing what you want out of the role, and also being, as you said, tactful. And it comes down to great communication skills as well. And so speaking of communication and speaking of technology and diversity, there are plenty of tools out there that we see, ChatGPT being, the biggest hype that we've seen in generative AI over the last few months, right? So in your opinion, Frederic, what is the impact of generative AI tools and AI technologies overall for recruitment?
I think so. But first of all, I think we need to forget the idea that the AI is going to replace the people and is going to do the full recruitment for the future. In the future, I think TA is above all a human function with a lot of psychological aspects. A robot will never have a brain, or will never have this debate function that we can have. The judgment, the criteria, how we assess a certain problem, we are really, really far from there. Mm-hmm. At the moment, I think that AI is an incredible support for us. They help us making better decisions based on data. It makes our job easier regarding the automation of our task. So AI in recruitment makes a significant impact. For example, it can speeds up the process of the whole hiring process by automating the task. It relies only on data, and then it eliminates the unconscious bias that we can have from a human perspective. It provides also a good engagement with the candidate, and it can screen thousands of applications in a few seconds. We can also use some chatbots that can provide immediate information to the candidates who are in the process. We can also use AI video tools that can save time for screening the first round. We can use AI in terms of a reference check. We can use AI for the onboarding. We can also use AI today for automating scripting when we are talking and when we are actually recording a video like today. Mm-hmm. We can also have an AI who's going to capture every word of what we say, and they summarize the notes, and they can share automatically and give access to these notes to a specific people. So we don't have to remember what we say, take notes, etc. So it can be done automatically. I really find it fascinating, but I'm really not scared in the future on the fact that everybody thinks that AI is going to replace us, and there's going to be less and less jobs in recruitment for people. I really think it's going to be a matter of adaptation and support.
So then AI takes on the manual tasks and automates most of the things that used to take up time. How might the TA function be elevated in this sense? The decision-making skills, what sort of factors would you have to look into?
So hiring more based on data for sure, because if we have more insights, more information coming from all these AI tools, platforms, and support, is gonna make our life way easier for sure. And the second one is to make sure that we are not biased by our unconscious bias. Like I said, when we have someone in front of us, it can be a handsome man, it can be a pretty girl. We want to push this person to go to the next round. It's inside of us. We cannot control that, unfortunately. If we are an ex-professional sportsman and we find on the resume that this person went to the Olympics or this person went for the same type of sport as ours, we automatically create some affiliation here, and we also want to help this person unconsciously to go to the next round and to get this job. So the AI tool destruct everything like that and just rely on pure facts, and it's a cold rationally that maybe sometimes the humans need.
Thank you so much, Frederic. You've given a breadth of perspectives and different strategies, in fact, and even examples, and they've been really nice to hear, because I'm sure that the audience will find it very useful, that they have to keep changing and evolving as they go along. You yourself have moved from a sales background into recruitment and talent acquisition, which actually requires a lot of sales skills.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
A lot of
it's almost
management.
like a continuation.
Exactly, yes. It's just in a different mode altogether, and for a slightly different goal. So what advice would you give someone who is starting out in talent acquisition today, given all the circumstances that we've just talked about?
Sure. So I would say my best advice will be to keep up with the new trends in tech, because it's so important to be tech savvy in the future for any role, any specialization. Today you have tech in education, and it's called EdTech. You have tech in advertising, which is my case today with EdTech. You have tech in the climate, energy, and environment, which is climate tech. So finance, fintech, medical, medtech, all these industries are evolving. Yes, exactly. All these industries are following the tech industry. So I really, really think my best advice will be to become tech savvy, to make sure to understand the trends within technology, and also that's my subjective, my personal opinion, but I really believe in the future becoming the Web 3.0 with all this blockchain and all the decentralized finance, and all these crypto platforms are going to really revolutionize our future. So even if you are not a firm believer, I would still recommend to keep an eye on it, to understand how it's working, to follow the next updates, because it's going to happen, I think, quite fast. And if the companies today are missing this opportunity, it's going to have a big impact on their future. So again, it's not the Web 3.0 is just my own opinion, but more broadly, more largely, I think take a specialization in tech. Make sure to maybe go on Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, and get certifications, go online for classes, and understand digital marketing, etc. It's going to be extremely, extremely important.
Yeah, that's right. The disruptions, it used to happen maybe in the span of 3 years, 2 years, and it's simply getting shorter. And we're sort of reaching a point in which we have to do it every day, so to speak, just to keep up with the trends, keep up with what is happening out there in the development, and be able to recruit, right? So thank you so much for your time and your insights today, Frederic. I'm sure whoever is listening in will want to connect with you. So drop us your contact details.
Sure. So you can find me on my LinkedIn. Frederic Bonifassy. It's kind of straightforward. You can also reach out to me on my personal email, which is frederic.bonifassy fredbonifassy@gmail.com. And I'll be happy to connect with any of you guys.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And we have been in conversation with Frederic Bonifassy, Head of Talent Acquisition for APAC at RTB House. Thank you for joining us this week. If you like our content, please subscribe to our channels to stay tuned for more weekly episodes from All in Recruitment.